Hello, how are you? Is it better after the shower, or do I look better like this? Do I look like a wise sage? Do I look like I have wise things to say? Or do I look homeless? Um, right before I took a shower, I was on my way home. I went to my brother-in-law's surprise birthday, and I was unfairly addicted to this man. Even if my fears about my sister getting hurt are based in truth, I definitely handled things wrong. And I realized that you can be right and be wrong. For instance, I don't know how this is going to go. I wasn't thinking, but I was just driving home and this guy in a Tesla cuts me off and slams his brakes. And I'm thinking, like he wasn't gesturing at me. But he definitely did it on purpose. And then he kind of scurried away. And then, of course, I caught up because I rolled down my window and I'm like, and he said, dude, you were in my lane and you were on a turning lane. You were in my lane. I was paying attention. I was not texting. I wasn't doing anything. Maybe I was a little bit closer to the lane. Maybe. Um, and my response to him was like, did you think that was a good way to handle it? Like, he doesn't know if I'm crazy. This guy's willing to put his life on the line. Now, interestingly, I think this same guy flicked me off when I was in my Ferrari coming into the neighborhood. He was behind me and he flicked me off. And then, the old me, I would have turned around and been like, let's talk. Get outside right now. And then I thought at the time, I was like, why give it energy? You know what I mean? Like, he's obviously dealing, like, I don't know. I assumed it was because the car was loud, but maybe I was a little bit in his lane. But, like, also, this happens to me all day, every day. Like, I don't, you know, pull people over and try to get in a fight. So obviously the guy's dealing with something. If it's the same guy, I don't know. I might drive around the neighborhood and see 9CMB was his license plate. I didn't memorize it on purpose. Just remember stuff. And you know, after I said, "Did you think that was a good way to handle it?" He's like, "Yeah." And then he did an illegal U-turn, peeling out into oncoming traffic to run away. Maybe he was right earlier, but now who's the dickhead now? Um, and I realized, like, well, one, the man was scared of me. My shirt was off. I don't think I'm like an imposing person, but I suppose if you don't work out, it probably looks like something. Um, so the guy was scared, and that brings me to, like, this has to do, like, obviously the universe is talking to me. This keeps happening. Like, I could see that this man is afraid. Like his like to flick someone off as they're leaving. You know what I mean? Like, he's doing it for himself. Like, I could see that he saw me look, whoever, if it's the same guy, the guy who flicked me off. Like, I was ahead, and then as I leave, he flicks me off, and then I look at him, and he just like panics and then turns. And obviously, I could have turned around and been like, "What's up?" But then, then I'm wrong. Um, but I've always, confrontations are always tough for me because I'm passive until I'm aggressive. I have a certain point where it's like I made it clear to leave me alone, and when someone keeps at it, then I'm like, okay, we've gone too far. I have to. My sword is unsheathed. I need blood, which isn't a good. It's like Marty McFly. No one calls me yellow. Or number three, he says yella, because he went back to the old west. So that's how they talk back then. Um, it made me think, like, obviously, like this guy has to be dealing with something. Then I thought I should probably just drive around the neighborhood, see if I could find his car, and leave him a love note. I see you. No, to say like, hey man, sorry, I cut you off. It was an accident, and then leave my number because I feel like this guy's dealing with something. He's like obviously he's externalizing, but he's the problem, in my opinion. Everyone who wants to start shit with me, it's them. I promise. I've never started shit with anybody. Um, at least sober. Um, so I imagine this guy's dealing with something, and then obviously me beating him up, following home, making him feel scared is not gonna change it. But I imagine if I responded with like I regret how I responded, and that's why I wanted to journal. It's like immediately I'm like, oh, I'm learning something. And I talked today at the party. I talked to someone about how I was really ashamed of how I responded when someone threatened my dad, and that like, I was ruminating over and over again after the confrontation of how much meaner I could have been. I could have said this. I called his wife a cunt several times in front of a group of people. Like, that's not a, like, I'm not proud of that. And then he's an old man. And I was like, even if you think you can take my dad, like, you ain't taking me. I was like, you're going to lose, sit down, shut the fuck up. I don't care what your problem is. You're going to have a bigger problem. And I wanted to assert my power over this man. And I physically turned him around. I was like, go sit down. Fuck you. And then if I I thought of like if I wasn't panicked, I could have said this, I could have said that, I could have, and then I was like, what kind of thoughts are these? And after I had this automatic response to a stress factor because I went directly into fight or flight. I was ready to fight. Usually when someone assaults me or tries to take something out of me, I don't actually respond. Well, when it happens to someone I care about, someone I love, I'm way more defensive. I'm way, way more defensive. Um, and if like you could say my heart's in the right place, but I'm still doing something wrong. You can be right and you're still wrong. So how do you be right all the time? So when I caught myself, at the time I was a fake spiritual person. I was wearing a cross around my neck. I wanted to be spiritual. I wanted to believe that the real teachings of Yeshua are what I was following, not what the church is. The symbol meant something different to me. And then I realized I'm acting like the people I've met rather than the person I'm trying to emulate. Um, I caught myself in the cycle of having negative thoughts, and your brain doesn't know that the stress is in the past. If you're having a thought about a confrontation, about a fight you had years ago, your body thinks it's happening now. And that's probably what the guy in the Tesla's going through. He's probably all day long in his head psyching himself out, living in hell. and then someone does something you don't like, is like it worked out fine and he can't handle it, flips out. He's stressed out from something else because there's no way it's me. Um, no girlfriend would have ever agreed to that statement. Um, and what ended up happening when I realized that I was doing the wrong thing and that there's no justification for violence. There's no justification for like when someone provokes you to anger, you then are doing the devil's work for him. So I might have been right in defending my father the way I did it. Imagine if I beat this man up, if I drowned him in the pool, if I knocked him out and he hit his head. You think anyone there is going to be like, oh, he was defending his dad? They'd be like, this fucking monster. So you can go from good to bad. There's plenty of people in jail that did that. Um, so it's not like I recognize that it's not good, and then I'm like, how do it's an automatic response. It's something that happens using your limbic system, fight or flight, right? It's a program you're following. How do you reprogram yourself? So at the time, I asked God for a teacher. I was like, I need help. I can't I can't just read things and figure this shit out. Like you really need to just be unplugged from society to reprogram yourself. It's very hard, difficult to be living every day, making mistakes, and then trying to correct because you're even if you're correcting something, you're doing a partial work. And then on my YouTube feed, there was this guy, John St. Julian, and he was saying that when you curse someone out, when you are mad at them, whatever you are borrowing from the demonic realm and doing the devil's work for him. And it was like exactly the message that I needed to hear at the time. And then I went through the backlog of this guy's videos. So he's like a Jesus looking fellow, the modern representation of Jesus. I probably look more like Jesus than the blonde hair, blue eyed guy that's painted in church. Um, and I learned a lot. Like, I imagine if you watch the videos, a lot of this stuff is like, you got to really go down rabbit holes to understand when someone talks about the Matrix, when someone talks about the Christic, when someone talks about, like there's a lot of backlog, and you can ignore those things and take the message. The message was what I needed, and this man is uh, a founder of a nonprofit, and because the message was so on the money, like synchronistic, because like exactly what I needed to hear is like, oh, I'm like you basically become the devil, and then you're doing the devil's work. I'm now traumatizing someone. Like that man probably was terrified. This guy in the Tesla was probably terrified that I was going to fuck him up, and that's not it's not a good thing, spiritual or not. That's not a good thing to be like. Is that what my purpose is in the world? No. So, um, it might be too late to like walk the interaction with the Tesla guy back. I was explaining to someone this story today that was there when I got in the confrontation with the old man that was threatening my father. And I was talking about how like I was ashamed immediately, and then I realized you only feel shame if you grew, and then there's no point in having the shame because that's not you anymore. Like you have to have that feeling to grow. So a lot of like the social structure is based like cancel culture is like you're condemning people and saying they can never learn. A racist will never redeem himself. And this is an incorrect thing for us to do, to condemn another person. So you don't deserve to feed yourself or your family. We should be very careful with that. And also like it's not productive. No one is ever going to change their mind because you hurt them. You're going to prove them right, in fact. So the guy that was in my dad's face, I assume, is because my dad is Middle Eastern, and this was an old British couple, and my dad is a Middle Eastern man in a multiracial relationship, and he was having the time of his life, and they were looking at him like, "You're stealing our fun." So there's something wrong with them. And instead of "I'll kill you," I could have been like, "What was the problem? Were we too loud? I apologize. My dad is partially deaf in one ear. Uh, he didn't mean it. Would you like to join us? Have a drink. Can I make it up to you?" I want to be that. He might still tell me to fuck myself, in which case it's totally fine to beat him up. I'm just kidding. But um, you can't really, you can't control other people. You can control yourself. And this is the alchemy. This is, cause effect, cause effect. The pendulum swings both ways. Equal to the right, equal to the left. And to be an alchemist, you stop it. I could have, the Tesla guy wanted me, he's sharing his bad energy and he wanted to hit me, without getting hit back because he's obviously terrified. Obviously, I'm a terrifying person. I'm going to drive around and see if I see his car. Uh, I like to know when a liability is around for one thing, but also I will leave him a note if I find it. Um, so it goes on with this fear and love thing, huh? I always think like I saw 777 today. It's like a spiritual enlightenment. There's like a spiritual lesson. So that was the spiritual lesson today. It's like I'm still not quite there. They say this is a Lao Tzu said this, I believe. So it's a Taoist philosophy is that he who blames other, excuse me, he who blames others has a long way to go. He who blames himself is halfway there. He who blames no one has already arrived. So I've had interactions with people where, like I could see that interacting with them would be a losing battle. Like I know that I would become the projection for someone unconscious. With my best intention, trying to help someone, like I would be on the receiving end of their trauma, basically, which is what unconscious people do. It's what people do. Period. And try as I might, I still become that. They'll still, you'll have the feeling inside, and then you'll make reality reflect how you feel. So you feel justified. And then you look externally and you say, it's your fault. You didn't do this thing, or you said the wrong thing. You made the wrong noises with your mouth. I can't forgive you. I can't love you. And that's the problem with the whole world. And like I realize it, I see it, I don't know what I can do, like even onesie twosies. Like I don't know how on an individual basis I can explain or show someone or wake someone up out of the, how can I become whoever Lawrence Fishburne was in the Matrix? What the fuck was his name? Morpheus. I can't, how do I become Morpheus and wake people up out of the Matrix? You're like, no, this is it's you. It's always you. So when you blame others, you're very unconscious. When you start to become conscious, you start to blame yourself. Oh, I was unconsciously projecting. I was unconsciously doing that. I was unconsciously becoming the devil and doing the devil's work for him. And then you get to the last part, which is you realize it's not your fault either. It's not their fault. It's not your fault. And then you let things go, and then energy flows. It's like the concept of Wu Wei in Taoism. Everyone should learn. Everyone should learn. I was talking to someone today, and she was. We were talking about like a mutual friend who's no longer my friend actually, but she was saying that don't you think you should be a support system for that person? That you know, modern psychology says that you need a support system and you need this and you need that. And I was like, I didn't even want her to finish. I was like, no, 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 no. I know modern says that. But how fucked up are modern people? Everyone's medicated, even alternative medicine. Like it's not just prescriptions. The most prescribed people in history. And when these mood stabilizers numb you, they're numbing your spiritual power, but you don't get as happy either. You might not get depressive, sad, and you might be like, okay, I won't have the highs if I don't have the lows. That's fine. But you're having these, so use this. And you know when you use this is when you're alone. You only do it when you're alone. Rumi says, when God has sent everyone away, it's so that it's only you and him. So I explained to this girl, like Eastern philosophy says otherwise, is that you need to be alone. And subconsciously, this old friend of mine pushed me away so that she could be alone. Like your subconscious mind is connected to God, is doing things in your favor, even though it's hurting you. It's leading you to a person that's going to hurt you profoundly because that'll wake you up. That's the only thing that wakes you up. You have to, and your subconscious mind knows what does it. But modern people, we're attached to so many things. There's so many things to distract you, to numb the pain a little bit, to keep you going to the next day. We're sleep deprived. We're overly medicated, not just with prescriptions, but with caffeine, with sugar, with friends. With I was thinking today, like, show me someone with a lot of friends. I'll show you someone who has a lot of work to do. If you always need to be doing something because you're trying to silence something. And I'll notice, like, if I get in someone's car and the music's blasting and the AC's blasting, and it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What are you drowning out? In my in my heart of hearts, I wish I could hug and relieve the pain and stress they feel. I can feel it from outside of their body. I can't imagine how much of a hellscape it is inside. But if it's visible on the outside, it's palpable. So when you go through your own spiritual journey, and I say that all the time, what is a spiritual journey to me is you figuring out your own trauma is the spiritual journey. So it's not a matter of finding God. It's not a matter of joining a religion. It's not joining a cult. I watched some documentary about cults the other day. It was an anti-cult, which is, it's still a cult. Spoiler alert, you don't have to watch the thing. Um, and that anti-cult was they're doing breath work and art and aikido and let's do like a talent show. They're doing all these things to make you feel like loved and in community, and it's just temporarily, it's ball tickling while you're getting rammed in the butt. It's not a permanent solution. It's the same thing that, when you go to church you feel good and then you have to come back next week because, oh yeah, no, good message. I'm not going to beat my wife tomorrow and the next day, but come Wednesday this bitch better watch out because you haven't worked on the thing. You haven't done the spiritual journey. So when religious people are like, oh, I was saved, Jesus healed me, or whoever, you're fucking lying. You can't fake the work. You can't fake the vibrations. You can tell the people in church and they might give you money, but you ain't fooling me. I know you judge a tree by its fruit. I can tell when someone has a neurosis because game recognizes game, motherfucker. I understand because I see myself struggling in each person. I see a version of me because this is my universe, obviously. But all you see is a reflection of you. And every person that triggers you is telling you something about yourself. That's what projection is. It wouldn't trigger you if you didn't identify with it. And usually it's part of your shadow. It's something you're ashamed of that you think that you're trying to hide away. It's like I'm not that. But Jung teaches we are both light and dark. We are both light and dark because I have the capability and I know I have. And there's some people on this planet that think I'm the devil, for sure. But I also have friends and like I had this conversation with this girl. She was like, she was adopted. She didn't feel like she belonged and all this stuff. And I was saying like, just the same things I say to everybody. It's like, Carl Jung says, no tree can reach heaven whose roots go down to hell, whose roots don't go down to hell. Now, what are your roots? It's where you started. That's where it starts. So when we're babies and we're traumatized, this girl was adopted. So she's always felt like this. It's like, you know what happens when you've had profound sadness, aloneness, when you've had profound pain, is you want to fix that for other people. Your life doesn't become about money and showing off shit. Those people are so lost. Those ones are the most lost. The name brand people, I want to be on a private plane. I want to be on this, like, the people that need the validation externally didn't have this inward journey. And everyone has a spiritual journey. Those people especially have it. But they keep doubling down. They just keep consuming because if a shark stops swimming, it drowns. So this girl, I'm telling her, she's saying like, "Oh, you should be a support system to your friend if you know she's going through something." And I'm like, "No, you don't. Like, people don't grow unless they're alone." And then also like she's looking externally like for comfort. So like it's a friend that tried to cross the boundary, I guess. That's how I would say it. And I'm not mad at the friend for that. Like that's totally, understandable. I'm a handsome and charismatic guy. But um the way she did it was disrespectful to me, like let alone who I was with. And then it she wasn't thinking about how it would affect me in my life the way she did it. And then I know that she's spiraling. Just she's not thinking about, is this a good time? Is this a good place? Is this a good manner? She was thinking about, I need this. Fuck everybody but me. I'm the main character syndrome. And I don't have space for that. I don't have the attention span. And also, there's nothing I can do to save that. I definitely wouldn't want to hitch my trailer to it, of all things. But um, it's not her fault. She's drowning. And what she's doing is trying to find a life raft. But if I become that life raft, even as a friend, I am preventing her growth. You have to hit rock bottom. So as I'm explaining to this girl, like that's the case, and that also like in Eastern philosophy, this is the concept of God makes sense because it's us participating. It's not God pulling strings and fucking with us just for this, like a kid with a magnifying glass melting ants. It's like it's karma. It's reincarnation. It's if you add these concepts, then if you were a terrorist, if you were a piece of shit, if you were abusing your power in this life, and to us, it seems like they got away with it. I know someone who might have stolen a baby, and she died before she was confronted about it. But like the way she lived her life, it's like it seemed like she knew. I don't want to condemn the person. I wasn't there. I don't know. But I know that if reincarnation is real, then guess what happens your next time is you're gonna have a rough start. Maybe not rough start even. Maybe at like you'll everything will be going swimmingly, and then you'll get fucked. Someone steals your baby. And of course, in that life, why would God do this to me? In the reincarnated life where her baby's stolen or dies, why the fuck would a just God do this? Well, then it makes sense, doesn't it? God didn't do shit. It's like you did this on your own. So then it makes sense for bad things to exist in this world. Whether this is hell or purgatory or some other shit, I don't know. But I feel like we're working things off. We're working things out because I feel like there's tiny cycles that I can pinpoint. I did this wrong, then this bad thing happened. Like I sold a car, and the car had an issue, and it was under warranty. I was like, fuck it, like I'll let them figure it out. I sold the car to someone, a dealership, and then they ended up selling the car for $5,000 less. And I found out like months later. I was like, oh fuck, like what do I pay them back? Like I fucked someone. And I realized that the next car that I bought sight unseen from a famous wrestler, actually, famous movie actor. And he didn't do any maintenance to the car, so like the clutch was fucked up. I assume it had more miles than is showing because the paint was in kind of rough condition, and I paid a premium. The car should have been perfect. And do you know how much it cost me to get it in working order? $5,000. Scales balanced. So I'm sure those guys made an extra $5,000 that first place somewhere. And then I saw in real life how karma actually works. I fucked someone. You never get away with it. You never get away with it. That's a relief actually. You know, if you can especially bet that the people seem to get away with shit in this lifetime, the next one they're fucked. That soul is going to be tortured. And maybe that's what hell is here. It's like people living their individual hells or heavens. And what determines if you're in hell or in heaven is what you do. What's the difference between an angel and demon? Are they not the same thing? It's what they do. Angels are helping and demons are fucking people. Probably literally. Probably fucking kids. Um, so enough about the Catholic Church. Uh, I was thinking about the narcissists I've met and that I've been able to spot now very easily when someone's a narcissist, where I can see that, talking about eros, philos, and agape. They can love someone like they actually will, believe it or not, they'll love pets more than people. You hear a lot of that going around. People loving pets more than people. And what that is an expression of their fear. They're afraid that they can't be loved because they can't love somebody else fully. So they're afraid no one else can do it for them. So, because your ego, your conscious mind, is not aware that anyone else exists, you are technically hallucinating. Everybody on the planet is an NPC to your conscious mind. You have no idea that anyone else is like. As soon as you stop seeing them, they stop existing. Basically, you assume they're in their houses or whatever. But have you ever seen that your neighbors bring in groceries? I saw my new neighbor on this side taking groceries. He must be real. I went to wave at him, but he looked away. He looked away. Seems like a nice guy though. So yeah, that's fear, right? So the narcissists that I'm like, fuck them. They're like evil. What's more evil? Like they can't love. Then I'm like, oh fuck, like they can receive love more than like be the benefactor of a lot of love, and they'll never feel it. That's hell. That sucks. That sucks. I receive love, but I've only ever received like the conditional love. And I think it's because even though I'm getting there, like I have this like undying, like if I care about someone, it's not something I can renege on, take back, but I will act like I do to not hurt. So I start to have like a negative opinion about someone to distance myself emotionally. I realized I was doing this last night. I was like, well, that person's this anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'm like, no, like, what are you doing? This person's an angel. You know, that this person's great. It's like I wish they were further along in their path so we could meet eye to eye. I'd love I'd love to be with someone who can love me in that um, agape way, the love that keeps no account of wrongdoing. Because if you're holding a record, you'll never be happy. You're preventing yourself from being happy. So I'm at a point in life where I hold record for a time, and then I'm like, if I can, it's fine. I love everybody, man. But that was trained in me to take it away and to be vicious and to, someone's mean to me, I'm mean back. Someone took something from me, I want to take from them. I have a hard time doing that, but that's the feeling I have. And when I don't take something back, you don't get the blood. You feel incomplete. You feel like a vegan. You ever have a salad that doesn't have meat on it? It's like, what a waste of time. It's like, is this packing material? Are we shipping boxes today? This is the food that my food eats. Where's the meat? It's really bananas that people are eating imitation meat made in labs out of chemicals. No long-term studies on what that shit does to you. Weird. I mean, the meat that we do have is poisoned anyways. The tangent, tangent. But yeah, my point is that emptiness. So I can see like the Tesla driver. First of all, he drives a Tesla, so he's a beta male, obviously, and he ran away from me. Like he started something, and he wasn't prepared to go to the next step, which is bizarre to me. It's like unless you're willing to die, you should shut the fuck up, just like as a safety thing. Like this guy was scrawny. His teeth were miles apart from each other, each doing their own thing. It was horrific when he opened his mouth. I see why he has self esteem issues. I wouldn't tell this to him unless I was angry, which is probably something I need to work out. Um, but I can see when someone's dealing with something, like it's not always so obvious as this guy. Some people have a really big smile on their face and you think they're the happiest person, and they're probably dealing with a lot. And based on their actions and behaviors, my entire life, I have been silent, observing. And I am so observant. So observant. I mean, I'm looking around constantly. So I believe that is an adaptation from how I grew up. Like it was a hostile environment. Right? It didn't feel safe, so I was paying attention to how I should think and act and feel because I didn't know what's going to happen. If my parents are afraid for their safety and security, like if you don't eat for a couple hours or a couple days, like did anyone notice? Um, so as a survival thing, I became super aware, and I watch people and I feel the energy that people give off. I think I explained that I saw a guy at a party and I knew that he was a bad guy, and then found out later that he did bad things. And they could be the super charismatic or whatever. I could feel what's going on inside, and you can see in people's eyes. I've always had a heart. I thought I was autistic because I couldn't make eye contact. I think it's because it's so intimate. And a couple times, like my life was in danger. I was being extorted by a mafia, and they're threatening to kill me. And I was looking in all of the men's eyes. There's some behind me. I don't know how many there were, but as I was looking in each of their eyes, I was like, I'm fine. It's like they don't have it. They're not. I'm not in danger here. It was a huge gamble, but um, I realized that I put myself in danger to test my theories on everything, like if there is a God. And when I tell people the story, they're like, "Oh my God, or do you have PTSD? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "That was my therapy. I saw 777 so many times, and I was like, what's the thing?" And I was feeling like stuck. So I went back on things that I already knew. Like I went to a place I shouldn't go. There's a shady place, and then I went and I drank. And I already knew drinking is not part of my story. It's not. It's not good for your vibration. It's not good for your body. It's messes up my equilibrium, my digestion. I look lean for a couple days, but um, there are lasting effects that as I've become more spiritually awake and more healthy, mind, body, soul, it a sip hurts. I can't do it. It's like stabbing yourself. Like how many times do you stab yourself before you become numb to it? It is like that. You will eventually, and I guess you can work through it to hide the pain. I guess, but is that a good thing to be doing? Just for acceptance, just to meet people, just to fit in, just to turn the noise off. You need to address the noise, not turn it off. I talked about in a couple of these a successful man I met, and I felt his pain. I felt what's happening underneath. So he's drinking and he's otherwise like just having he's trying to numb himself so he can have fun, and I couldn't match that energy because what I felt was that like I want to talk about let's talk about the real thing. Let's talk about what's really happening. Let's get to the crux of it. People usually tell on themselves. So there's a few things that he said. I was like, oh, I'm right. Oh, that's what I'm feeling. Like he was talking about how he likes alcohol because it quiets his mind and he's not thinking about all the things that he has to do. But it was like, why are you doing those things if it makes you kill yourself? Is money and status and making everybody else happy that important to you? It is until it isn't. And once it stops becoming imperative, that's when you're spiritually awake. It is said that it is easier for a camel to pass through an eye of the needle than a rich man to go to heaven. Do you know why that is? It's not that you're not supposed to just give up everything and live in a cave naked. That's not what that means. When you is pointing out the inner work you're avoiding, because it is the worst of the things that you could be doing to numb that inner voice. It's your soul, that inner voice is the reason you feel upset is you're killing your soul. Your soul is dying and you're not listening to it. You've never been taught how. So you can get an education to show people that you're smart. You can buy a Rolex and wear fancy clothes for people who think that you're wealthy. People think that you're worth something because you don't feel the inner worth. You can get really fit, so fit that you spend 6 hours in the gym like my neighbor, and walk around with your shirt off so people see it's like, oh, that guy really cares about nothing else. And every time he gets a new procedure done to his face, like it looks like an alien for a little bit. Like people are expressing how they're being tortured inside. Like I feel totally fine without buying anything, without consuming anything, without anyone seeing me, without posting on social media, without. And it was hard to get rid of that shit. It's so hard. But everybody who was preaching on social media I saw was faking it too. I might have mentioned it. There was this Persian guy who has like a supplement company, and he has an angel number in his name too. So I'm like, oh, let me see what this guy's about. And I scrolled through his stuff, and his like father is dying of cancer. He sets up the camera, and he's like, doop. He like kissed his dad gingerly. His dad's like fucking Nosferatu, um, inches from death. And then he took that video to be like, everybody feels sorry for me, and look how much I love my father. It's like, show him actual love, you fuck. That's why he's dying. You're doing this bullshit version of love, which I mean, maybe he learned from his father, but I was like, oh fuck, this guy's faking it. Why would you show people that? Maybe he has a different reason that's noble, but um, nothing you consume externally can make the whole whole. Nothing. You have to go on your inward journey, and it has to be done alone. So if you have a lot of friends, if you're always with your family, if you always have your pet, whatever, you're never alone. You're never actually doing the inside work, which is what I found super powerful. Like, I'm not a super big proponent of this now because I think it's also dangerous, is a massive mushroom trip. Because what happens is if you take a little bit of mushrooms, you find yourself smiling, just a little bit more agreeable, a little bit sharper, maybe. Like, I met like 30 people. I remembered all their, once you shake someone's hand and you're like, I have no idea what you just said. Hi, Em. And then you try to do things like, oh, repeat the name. So then you remember your own voice saying it because someone else talking for some reason doesn't work. But I remember 30 people, how they related to each other, who knows who, like, it was interesting. It was like, I have the ability. Why the fuck don't I just do that? And then I was like, okay, let me take more. And then I could not be in public. I was like, people know I'm high. What am I doing with my face? Oh my God, what do I do with my hands? People know I'm high. Oh fuck, I have to leave. And then there's like a certain amount of panic, I guess, which is not fun. But then when you go be alone, you can either really enjoy music or like releasing serotonin. So you are releasing good feeling chemicals. But what happens when you do a megadose, like a hero dose? And I'm not talking like, you know, outer body experience. I'm talking about enough that you lose control. So I'm guessing that's in the neighborhood of 5 grams. I don't know how to measure drugs. I really don't. I don't know what 5 grams looks like. But like imagine a whole chocolate bar or a whole bag of gummies or whatever, however they. I really don't know how to measure like an actual mushroom. But what happened to me is I had to seek, like your subconscious basically takes over. Like the conscious mind turns off, which as it's happening, you panic because you want control, which is an illusion. You don't have control. At most, you're talking about locus of control, your perceived control. In reality, you have nothing. And then as this shit kicks in, like in 30, 45 minutes, you panic because you're thinking, oh fuck, like I'm not in control. And then that lasts a couple of minutes. It's really not long. Time moves slow when you're high, but it's not long. And then the thing you're avoiding, the thing, whatever it is at the time, it's like the word pops in your head and you're like, strawberries. It all started with strawberry. Whatever the fuck it is, I don't know. Dad. Um, my father. The thing that, like, the word will pop up, and then you go on this inward journey discovering what your subconscious mind that your conscious mind does not know. So you have all the answers locked inside you, and you will seek solitude. You're like the mushrooms tell you, or something. You don't want to be indoors. You don't want to see right angles. You want to turn your phone off and flush it down the toilet. You won't, like, the idea of a phone will make you throw up. It's so weird. You want to be in nature. It's like you return to like what you're supposed to be, I guess. You want to be in nature. You want to, like, the colors of everything are super vibrant. You feel like connected to the world rather than so distant from it. Like, how often do your bare feet touch earth? It's touching concrete or asphalt or fucking glass or like a meth needle. Does meth come in injection? I think people would do spoons with that. Or not. Um, but for a moment in time, let's say an hour, 2 hours maximum, you have this conversation with your subconscious. You force all the things that keep you numb away. Like, you can't have a conversation with someone. You can't even, like, if they're in the room, you're gonna be like, I need you to shut the fuck up. Like, be here for my safety, but I'm going inside. And to me, it was the most transformative thing that I've ever done. I don't know if I would be who I am if it wasn't for that. Because you have an ego death. And how do you know to seek that? How do you learn how to, like, what kind of meditation or yoga class or whatever the fuck you'll get lost in these bullshit schemes for money. Like, mushrooms free on the floor. You should wash it first, though, if you know how they grew. Um, and also, it came from nature. Like, if it does that to you, it's supposed to do that. And they're saying it cures PTSD and complex trauma and things that, like, modern medicine and psychology can't cure, cannot. And then they're like, one trip also, you're not medicated for life. I hear people trying to microdose or whatever. There's no research to support that. Paul Stamets, the guy who did the Netflix special Fantastic Fungi, he was talking about how he had a lifelong stutter. He did speech therapy and all this shit. And he went into the woods because he's in like Washington or Oregon. There's nothing else to do. And he took a bag of mushrooms and he's like, this must be one dose. Ate that shit up. And then watched a storm rolling in, like felt the ether, the energy in the air, and then told himself, stop stuttering, stop stuttering, stop stuttering. And when he was sober, this stutter has been gone. Like, rewired himself. Now, on the same token, just as a word of caution, this is what bad trip is you go, instead of thinking positive, or like, this is why you need to be in nature, is you're thinking about positive things. You're just absorbing the energy of what's around you. You have artificial lights and right angles. This is upsetting. It's upsetting to look at. There's so many right angles here. You, like, extra right angles for no reason. My cupboards are fucking boxes. The refrigerator is a box. His house is a box. There's no feng shui in this bullshit. So it's a fucking nightmare. Um, so if you start thinking negative things, you're going to have a bad trip, whatever the fuck that means. That's why you have someone who's done it uh, show you the way. If you just do it in your living room, you might freak out. But at the same time, your body's still releasing serotonin. It's still releasing happy chemicals. So, like, you might have a bad time for a little bit, but try and fight hormones. You ain't doing it. Ask any woman 1 week a month. She could be the coolest girl and then not be. Just saying. Um, so it was for me a profound experience. I never like doing drugs in public sounds like a nightmare to me. I will never do it. I also like when people hear me say stuff that's positive about mushrooms, like, why aren't you doing it? Like, you don't drink, why aren't you on mushrooms now? It's like, well, I don't take medicine if I'm not sick. It's medicine. And yeah, you also don't take medicine in a group and then go to a festival. It's not, I don't think that's what it's made for. Um, and also, like, when you are high, your defenses are down. The more people around you there are, the more danger you're in. You want to let loose. That's not an appropriate place or time to be a crowded place, not have your wits about you. I mean, I think just going is a stupid idea from personal experience. Um, Fuck crowds entirely. You don't know who's in there. Um, Agape. So I wish, I want in this life, like if I get married ever, which is not looking good, guys, it would be if someone loved me like that. That so someone has to have discovered their own trauma and worked through it, or at least is working through it, and knows that that's the goal. Because I'm not perfect yet either. Yet, see, I'm trying to be. So if someone's like unaware that they even have the journey, it's like, what are we doing? Speak different languages. We'll never be happy. It's like I wish my journey was over. I wish that I could share good vibrations or good thoughts or the work that I've done. Like, I tried writing things down. I wrote like 150 pages or something. But even if I publish a book, how do I get people to look at it? And then, like, it's in my words, but you know what's easier is I'm talking to you right now. Whenever you see this, it's the right time. And this is way more personal, way easier to digest. So I'm going to stop trying to be somewhere. I'm already here. This is where I'm supposed to be. And if I keep doing my inner work, if I keep on the self discovery path and I keep telling you about it, then eventually I will get to that end goal. Part of me wonders, are you supposed to marry someone who's fucked up so your kids have something to get over? And then I think, like, well, why? Maybe that's why the world is fucked up. There's this idea. I watch spiritual mumbo jumbo stuff on YouTube, and a lot of it goes over my head. I'm going to be honest with you, but I understand the concepts. So they talk about star seeds and indigo people and chosen ones, right? So the idea is that now on Earth is the time that people are healing. And the next generation is the generation that is like we're basically supposed to give birth to angels who change the future of the Earth. And how do you do that? Is you do the work so they don't absorb your fucked up shit, because That's what happens. I know someone who is in a very religious family, and they think they have all the answers, so they stop doing the inner work, if they ever did. And they teach inner work, which is bizarre. But you know the tree by its fruit. So the parents numb themselves, like one drinks to go to sleep or gets high to go to sleep, which is like, if you have to do that to sleep, there's a problem. And they sleep in different bedrooms, but then they like tell people they have the perfect marriage. Like, we do anal, that's cool, right? Um, so it's these people were gaslighting me, and I could see, and it really upset me at the time. Um, but I see that they do it to each other. Like there's nobody on I thought like there's the inner circle is just the family, and then everyone else they get to use, but they're doing it to each other too. So all they know how to do is get their needs met at the expense of somebody. They don't feel like there's enough, which is horrific. But because the parents are like that, the daughter has anxiety. And then because the daughter has anxiety, she tries to numb herself, keep herself busy, has a lot of friends, is like from the moment she wakes up, she has a very rigid schedule. And if she doesn't get to the gym, she's gonna go ballistic. If she doesn't have her water bottle, her specific water bottle, she'll go ballistic. If all these things, right? And then I noticed that her dog has the same neurosis, the same anxiety. So the poor dog, if it loses sight of the owner, freaks the fuck out. Like sounds like it's being murdered. Like you think some it's lost a limb or something, and you have to take it to the hospital. And then, of course, the daughter doesn't see a problem with that. Like likes being like, yes, I am your God. Give me like you die without me, because her parents are like that. Because probably their parents were like that. And then I was thinking at one point, like I was courting this person, and then I was thinking, like, no matter how good of a father I am, the kids will have that. I would be bringing in, like, I think that is animal torture. I think that's animal abuse, what she's doing. She brought in, like, they don't have anxiety in the wild. There's a whole pharmaceutical industry for dogs now. Dogs with anxiety. We created to walk alongside man, spirit animals, and they take on our characteristics, good and bad, mostly bad. Because what makes a dog good is not a human characteristics. Like dogs love that pure agape, no record of wrongdoing. You yelled at him, but he still loves stuff. His tail's still wagging. He's ready. He's ready to make up. Um, but to give an animal anxiety and then not self-analyze, like, how am I doing this? You're like, it's crazy to me to torture an animal like that. And the same people are very like, I want to help. I want to open an animal abuse shelter. Like, start in your own home, please. Start with you. Like, watch Caesar Milan. Yeah, he's the dog whisperer. He always comes into the house. He's like, oh, I see. It's you. It's always the owner. He's like, you see what you're doing? You're making the dog panic. The dog feels your energy. I love watching those videos. Um, because it's just human psychology dumbed down. They're a little bit more basic. I wonder what the dogs are to us as we are to what's the next thing. Why are we so stupid? Um, but yeah, I cannot move to the next point in life if someone hasn't worked through their trauma, or at least is aware of them, because you have stupid fights, you have stupid problems, because I will get dragged into the unconscious behavior. It's your limbic system. It's a survival thing. Like, because Tesla homeboy looked like he wanted to fight by cutting me off. I assume it's like this is war. I'm, I'd like to diffuse it, but I'm ready to fight. So when you're dating someone who's like, they feel under attack all day because they are attacking themselves all day, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think you'll be the good guy? Do you think they'll love and respect you, or you'll be the manifestation of all their problems? It's like, oh, it's your fault. And that's not something love can fix, unfortunately. I wish. But it's not the movies. It takes high vibration comes from high vibration thoughts. Low vibration comes from low vibration people that you can share it, and low vibration thoughts. It's much easier to share low vibes. And because our basic survival is based off our limbic system and the lizard brain and fight or flight, it's an automatic response. And I like, sometimes in retrospect, I see things that I've done. I'm like, why did I act like that? Why did I respond like that? Like, it's not, I know better or whatever. It's like, that's why it's important to do the work. It can't be a one party thing. Like both people have to do it. Um, and although I wish it was like, if I could lead someone through the fog and be like, step here, step here, step here. These are the steps that I took that worked because I opened every door just to see what's behind it, and some of them hold nightmares. So I'll be like, hey, you know what? Don't go that direction. Go in this direction. I already walked that page. This is the safe stuff. You don't need to know what's behind that door. Don't worry about it. It's not what you need. It's not what anyone needs. Just walk this way. But that stops them from having you need the power inside yourself. So this former friend is going through her spiritual awakening, I think, is unconsciously isolating herself, and I'm going to let her, you know, because it's the only way she grows. Anyone who pushes you away needs to be alone. And it's the only thing you can do to help them, even though it hurts you. Even though you don't like watching people suffer, even though you might love them, even though. So, um, I started with saying that I was unfair to my brother in law because I thought that my sister would get hurt. And then further along on my path, I realized, like, hopefully she does get hurt. Not like I hope her marriage ends. That's not what I meant. I like hopefully she does get hurt in the sense that that's how we learn. So, like, when you're comfortable, you're not growing. That's what I mean. Like, I sincerely hope both of them are the happiest they can be. I misspoke, but my priority, like I was my sister's protector growing up, and she's a lot like me, so I know that her heart's in the right place, and she, like me, built like a tough exterior to protect the soft interior. I know she's vulnerable, but it was the best shit that ever happened to me. If it happens, maybe her story's different. It's not my fight. You know what I mean? I'm gonna just be supportive. I've been an asshole. Um, but yeah, when I like that guy was in my dad's face, I took out my sword immediately. I'm like always ready to fight for people I love more than I'm willing to fight for myself. But being aware of these things, I can analyze and I can adjust. He who blames others has a long way to go. He who blames himself is part way there. He who blames nobody has already arrived. So, my spiritual journey is about trauma. I think everybody's is. And of course, at the end of the journey or along the way, you can find a higher power. You could find a belief system. You can find purpose. Like even if you think it's a simulation, whatever, you find the answer. But the purpose of the spiritual journey is to go inside and fix inside with your thoughts. Cheat code, mushrooms. Don't do it in a public place. Do it with someone that you love and trust, and hopefully they've done it before. Um, I used to keep some on me to give to people. Like that's how much I thought people need it. Like I had so many people confide in me, like people that saw my growth. Like, how did you do it? What's your, you know what I mean? And it's not a matter of like you just get high and you figure it out. Like you have to be on the path of trying to figure something out, and you have to have learned a little bit about your own trauma and stuff. You have to be on the right path. It's not to numb yourself. That's not the purpose. So, like Alan Watts said, that psychedelics can get you in touch with the divine, but it's good that when you get the message, you hang up the phone. Boy, howdy. I won't even tell you, but don't fucking do it. Um, don't look to escape. You have to go through the storm. So, one way or another, that storm's waiting for you. You know, you can avoid it forever, and then I'm sure you think your problems go away when you die. They do not. So why not work on it while you're here? If you have questions, ask me. All right, well, I got to pack. I'll see you in a while. Bye.